When Omega, the luxury brand, made a shocking collaboration with Swatch to create a niche to attract a new set of audience, little did they know the ripple effects that a game-changing move would make. The hype around luxury timepieces now is going from strength to strength, especially on social media and with younger generations of users. And surely this development has changed the game for the entire industry positively. How on earth could just one collaboration, the Moon Swatch, have done all that though? Sit back and relax as we dissect every facet of the roles they played. For starters, let's take a walk down memory lane, specifically back in March 2022, when around the world only about 110 Swatch stores had gotten hold of the new series, the Moon Swatch. On it had the classic design one would expect from an Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch, adorning a mechanical chronograph and magnificently fused with a colourful quartz design by Swatch. And here's the neat part, a piece itself would cost around an affordable $300. There was an unprecedented amount of traction the collaboration got, and why wouldn't it? Everyone would want to get an Omega watch for such a sparring price. As a matter of fact, queues were already lined up outside boutiques for 2 days, and when the guards in charge of security came to unlock the doors on that fateful day, best believe all hell broke loose. For example, in cities like London and New York, it took barely a few hours for stores to be shut down mandatorily, as even the police had to intervene to help restore order to the crowds. To those who were lucky enough to get their hands on one before that happened, some of them quickly took advantage of the widespread demand the watch had and almost immediately sold them out for better profits, or even flippers who were surely interested in scalping. In little to no time at all, the swatches were quite available on eBay already, and just as you'd expect, with astronomical asking prices attached, with some going upwards in multiples of their original retail price. To be even more specific, the very first ever resale completed on eBay on that very day was confirmed by the site to be $1,089, way more than the original price. However, in response to the ensuing fanfare, Swatch attempted to calm the situation by issuing an official statement, emphasising that the Moon Swatches are not a limited edition and that everyone would eventually be able to attain their desired watch. The only thing that they would have to do is be patient. While this may have been an excellent attempt to calm things down, it almost felt like a mother urging her child to wait for their turn to go on their favourite ride in Disneyland instead of crying out. However, in reality, everyone had already been hooked and drooling all over social media, with the owners of the Moon Swatch wasting no time at all to show it off on their posts and claim all bragging rights. To be entirely fair, the Moon Swatch's launch wasn't exactly the first foundation, but alas, it can be said to be that which tipped the scales to mark the generational shift in how luxury watches would be marketed or even sold. The Moon Swatch easily owns the crown of being the most captivating and alluring intense display of a phenomenon brewing over the years, the dawn of the hype watches. As a matter of fact, the Moon Swatch is widely regarded as one of the most defining moments of 2022 in the watch industry, and perhaps over the last decade. It also adds a new dimension to budget categories of watches and redefines those interested in those timepieces. However, the burning question remains, how long will the hype era from the younger generations last? Also, you're probably wondering how the Moon Swatch has probably changed both the primary and secondary watch market, aren't you? According to Brian Duffy, the chief executive of the Watches of Switzerland group of watches and jewellery, since March there has been a significant increase in sales, over the tune of double digits. Could it be a coincidence that it just happened just after the Moon Swatch's release? That's quite unlikely. In the pre-owned market, the Moon Swatch effect has been clear as well. In the words of Tim Strake, who is the co-chief executive of the German-based watch market Chrono24, he said, "When the news came out, I thought it was an April Fool's joke. But when we saw the first results on our platform, we were blown away, not just by Moon Swatch sales, but also by Speedmaster sales. In the weeks after, there was a 40% increase in sales of the original Speedmaster." This clearly proves how hype watches are changing the game, or at least have the power to do so. If that isn't convincing enough for you, take a look at the data gathered by DLG, Digital Luxury Group, a digital marketing agency in Switzerland. According to them, when the collab was announced in March, Google searches for Swatch worldwide rose by 397%, while Speedmaster itself increased by 171% in the same period. Before the global COVID issue came into the fold, the sales in the watch industry were more or less a spectacle revolving around annual trade fairs where the watches, of course, would be proudly showcased to retailers and press alike before making their appearances in stores anywhere between 3 to 9 months after that. The pandemic also brought forth a new change: the rise in e-commerce. When lockdown laws became the standard mode of operations, online retailers struck gold. The fact that most of the wealthy customers weren't able to spend their cash through fun trips, holidays, or even casual but massive spending sprees, the burning desire to spend their cash somehow led them to shop online. The bubbling millionaires of the crypto boom bought quite a lot of luxury watches, especially from the likes of Audemars Piguet. The demand for watches has been growing at an alarming rate, and for example, Hublot, the CEO, Ricardo Guadalupe, said, "At Hublot, we have seen a record in demand. We have been growing every year for the past 15 years, but I haven't seen any demand like this, especially at the high end, in my whole career." Beyond all doubt, the luxury brands and the watch market in general and as a whole have been growing. But alas, it's important to note that it doesn't by any means mean every new model may now acquire the status of being called a hype watch. Certainly not. However, watches like the Patek Philippe Nautilus and the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak remain at the very pinnacle, along with some stainless steel Rolex timepieces. Also, the limited edition collaborations, which aren't by any means a new concept at all, are now having quite an amazing amount of hype behind them. But why so? Millennials and Gen Z are quite different from the older generation of watch lovers and enthusiasts. While the latter was more or less in love with the tradition and powerful backstory behind the DNA of the timepiece on their wrists, the former is simply interest-driven. Many of the recent collaborations that have graced the marketing scenes are centered around the watch brands and other tantalizing areas like sports athletes, car companies, and even entertainment with top-drawer celebrities. These kinds of collaborations tickle the fancy of these new audiences by being in line with their interests. Things like crypto, gaming, streetwear, and even contemporary art. We've seen some collaborations like Tag Heuer teaming up with Nintendo and Audemars Piguet teaming up with Marvel movies. H. Moser has also unveiled the collaboration with the streetwear label Undefeated, so it's really no surprise at all as to why these watches are so appealing. However, the hype era may just be a grey area. When watches get hyped, there is every likelihood that they get sold out in such a short time, especially if they are part of some limited editions. In cases like these, flippers would be more than pleased, as every piece that gets into their hands would be sold for astronomical multiples in profit. And even when they aren't limited, companies can only make so many watches at a time, so there still lies the problem of supply and demand. While hype watches simply imply a new era of a generational shift at play, they also reflect a cultural phenomenon that shows a younger, more socially involved generation's behavioral pattern in marketing. It's hardly coincidental that the widespread hype watches came to fruition via social media, e-commerce, and even online market stores. The digital age is now here to stay, which could be challenging for the more traditional means that some luxurious companies are used to. Who will adapt and who wouldn't? Make no mistake at all, the ever-unfolding future seems even more attractive to lay permutations about.